Welcome to Quick Flick. Today, we're diving into the gripping thriller Hush, a spine-chilling tale of a psycho killer. Let's break it down. At the beginning of the movie, a house in the middle of a forest is shown. A girl named Maddie lived in that house. At the time, she was making breakfast. Shortly after, her friend Sarah came to visit her. Since Maddie was mute and deaf, Sarah communicated with her using sign language. Here, it is revealed that Maddie was also a writer who had written a book based on her own life story. The two were talking about this story when Maddie forgot that she had left food on the stove. As they continued talking, the food burned and smoke filled the house. The fire alarm went off and both of them rushed inside to fix the situation. They threw the burnt food into the trash and turned off the alarm. Sarah apologized to Maddie, saying, "Sorry, my conversation distracted you and your food got burned." Then Sarah suggested in sign language, "Let's eat out and watch a movie." But Maddie declined, saying she had a lot of work to do at home. Sarah left and Maddie returned inside. Here, we learn that Maddie became mute and deaf due to an infection. This issue had affected her since childhood, and after treatment and an operation, she permanently lost her ability to hear and speak. Due to this, she moved to the forest and started writing stories. At night, while Maddie was working on her next story, she was pondering how to end it. Unable to come up with an idea, she video called her friend, but she was too upset and hung up. Her friend called back, but Maddie shut her laptop and went to the kitchen to work. Suddenly, a shocking scene is shown. Sarah had come back to meet Maddie. Just as she reached the door, a masked man grabbed her and attacked her with a knife. Sarah screamed in fear and cried out for Maddie, but Maddie couldn't hear her and couldn't help. The masked man repeatedly stabbed Sarah, leading to her painful death. Sarah's blood spilled onto the ground. The masked man then picked up Sarah's body and left. He knocked on Maddie's door, but realized that she couldn't hear. Meanwhile, Maddie's friend called her again, but she didn't answer. Maddie resumed writing her story. During this time, the masked man quietly entered her house. He held a knife and started shouting, but as always, Maddie couldn't hear. Just then, Maddie received a video call from her friend. As soon as Maddie answered the call, the man stepped back. The two friends started talking. Her friend told Maddie, "Come to the city and stay with me." But Maddie refused, saying, "I can't come to the city. The noise there bothers me too much." Meanwhile, the masked man quietly grabbed Maddie's phone. Her friend caught a glimpse of the man and immediately warned Maddie, "There's someone behind you." Maddie replied, "It's just my cat." Then she said, "Okay, I'm hanging up. I need to find my cat, who's wandering around." After ending the call, Maddie started looking for her cat, but she couldn't find it anywhere. Exhausted, Maddie sat down with her laptop to work. Suddenly, she received a photo on her number. Seeing the photo, Maddie became tense. The picture showed snapshots of her at different times, working, searching for her cat, and video calling her friend. Seeing this, Maddie realized someone was inside her house, watching her. Panicked, she looked toward the door and saw the masked man standing outside holding her phone. He was scaring her by showing it. Maddie quickly locked the door. The masked man tried to enter through the window, but Maddie locked that too. Seeing this, the man started looking for another way to enter the house. Maddie tried to call the police, but the masked man noticed and cut the power to the house. He then changed the Wi-Fi password so Maddie couldn't contact anyone. Now Maddie became even more frightened as the masked man was standing outside, showing his menacing face. Maddie, terrified, didn't know what to do. The masked man walked away, but when Maddie looked toward the door, she saw him puncturing her car tires. Maddie grabbed a flashlight and saw him writing on the door, "Don't tell anyone you saw my face." He also wrote, "Your friend is coming." After writing this, he removed his mask. Maddie was shocked to see his face. It was her old friend. There was a time when they were good friends, but Maddie had distanced herself from him. The masked man then told Maddie that he wanted to stay with her again. He said, "I can enter your house whenever I want. Be careful." With this, he left. Maddie went to the kitchen and picked up a knife and hammer. She inspected the house to ensure the masked man hadn't entered. She also tightly locked all the windows and doors. Then someone knocked on her window. When Maddie checked, it was none other than the masked man holding Sarah's corpse and knocking. Seeing this, Maddie panicked and broke down in tears. But then an idea struck Maddie. She took her car remote and started honking the horn to distract the masked man. She went outside through the window and tried to pull Sarah's body inside, but the masked man saw her and started approaching. Maddie quickly went back inside and locked the window. The masked man tried to open it, but Maddie struck his hand with a hammer. His hand got injured and he backed off. The masked man walked away, but Maddie began planning her escape. Once again, the masked man spotted her. He started attacking her, forcing Maddie to return inside. He followed her, carrying a large hammer and ready to attack. But just in time, Maddie entered and shut the door. saving herself. Maddie saw the fire alarm and went upstairs. She planned to distract the masked man. She turned on the alarm and threw it far away. The masked man ran after the alarm, and Maddie used the opportunity to climb to the terrace and escape. But once again, the masked man saw her. As Maddie climbed the terrace, he shot an arrow at her. The arrow hit her leg, causing immense pain. Still, she managed to climb up and remove the arrow. Severely injured, Maddie realized she couldn't run anymore. The masked man climbed to the terrace. As soon as he reached the top, Maddie struck his face and pushed him down. The masked man fell without his weapon. Maddie tried attacking him with an arrow, but her attack failed. The masked man got up and chased her again. Maddie returned to her room and tried to bandage her wounds. She wanted to kill the masked man with the arrow, but didn't know how to use it. Just then, another friend of Sarah's arrived, looking for her. He knocked on the door, calling out for Sarah. Hearing his voice, the masked man approached with a flashlight, accusing Sarah's friend of being a thief and scaring him. Startled, Sarah's friend raised his hands and said, "I'm not a thief. I'm Maddie's neighbor, and Sarah is my friend. She came to meet Maddie, but hasn't returned yet. I was worried, so I came here." The masked man claimed to be a police officer. He said, "I received a distress call from here, so I came, but after arriving, my gun was stolen and my phone is missing." Saying this, he asked for Sarah's friend's phone. Taking the phone, the masked man pretended to make a call and then kept the phone in his pocket. When Sarah's friend asked for his phone back, the masked man takes it out and hands it to him. However, Sarah's earring falls from his pocket. Seeing this, Sarah's friend becomes suspicious and starts thinking. Suddenly he asks, "Maddie can neither speak nor hear, so who called you?" The masked man becomes puzzled. He looks around nervously and replies, "Maybe your friend Sarah called me." Hearing this, Sarah's friend realizes that he is lying. Sarah's friend picks up a stone and plans to attack the masked man. But before he can act, the masked man takes out a knife and slashes his throat. Sarah's friend falls to the ground, bleeding heavily. The masked man assumes he's dead, but Sarah's friend suddenly gets up and grabs the masked man, throwing him to the ground. Meanwhile, Maddie tries to escape from the house, but the masked man appears in front of her again. He grabs Maddie, throws her to the ground, and strikes her head with a rock. The masked man repeatedly bashes Maddie's head with the rock, causing her to die. However, this was only happening in Maddie's mind. Terrified, Maddie imagined that she could never escape. Everything she had seen was just her fear playing tricks on her. Her mind deceived her into believing that the masked man had crushed her head and killed her. The masked man, however, killed Sarah's friend. He struck his head violently, causing his death. Now Maddie realized that to survive, she had to tend to her injured leg first. She needed to heal her wounds and prepare arrows to kill the masked man. Moreover, she needed to restore the house's power supply, because navigating the house in the dark would put her at a disadvantage. Maddie debated hiding in the bathroom or a safe corner of her room, but she knew one thing: if the masked man entered the house, she would have no chance to do anything. She couldn't speak or hear, leaving her vulnerable. Thus, she decided she had only one option: to kill the masked man. Maddie used a cat to distract the masked man. While he was preoccupied with the cat, Maddie came outside and attacked him with an arrow. Unfortunately, the arrow hit his shoulder and didn't cause much harm. The masked man pulled the arrow out and resumed chasing Maddie. Maddie quickly ran back inside and locked the door, but the masked man shoved his hand through the door, breaking it. In the process, he severely injured his hand and foot. Despite his deteriorating condition, the masked man continued to taunt Maddie and mock her fur. Maddie mustered her courage and used her blood to threaten the masked man. She wrote warnings on the door with her blood and returned to her laptop to strategize. Through the laptop, she tried to analyze the masked man's appearance, skin tone, height, tattoos, and other identifying features. Outside, the masked man angrily attempted to break down the door. Maddie grabbed a knife and hid in the bathroom. She sat ready, with the knife pointed at the door, prepared to strike as soon as the masked man entered. However, something shocking happened. The masked man was already hiding behind her in the bathtub. Mocking her, he said, "This might be the right place to kill you." But Maddie sensed his presence through her breath. She turned around instantly and stabbed him with the knife, injuring him. She then ran to the kitchen. In the kitchen, the masked man attacked Maddie again. He struck her hard, causing her to fall, but Maddie sprayed insect repellent into his eyes. She also activated the fire alarm, creating a loud noise that further angered the masked man. Furious, the masked man attacked Maddie again, choking her. However, Maddie found a sharp knife nearby and slashed the masked man's throat with it. Bleeding profusely, the masked man collapsed and died. Finally, everything returned to normal. Maddie called the police and breathed a sigh of relief. She said to herself, "Thank God I survived. I had lost all hope, but with determination and courage, I defeated the masked man and saved my life." Thus, the story ends with a unique and thrilling twist.